Hello everyone, my name is Samuel Ryman and it is 12:40 a.m. Monday morning and I have just finished a binge watching Supercross, Formula 1, MotoGP, IndyCar and NASCAR. What a weekend, and I am so professional I jotted down a bunch of pieces of paper on a bunch of pieces of note on a piece of paper. It's 12:40 a.m. in the morning. Let's get through this. All right. You'll want me to talk about Formula 1, but I'm going to do this chronologically. Supercross first. I'm glad Chris Blows is okay. 250 rider, he had a very big crash. If you search on YouTube, there's probably some pirated videos up about it. I'm not encouraging you watch pirated videos, but they're probably there. But if you guys don't watch Supercross, you need to start doing it for the next 2 weeks because there's 2 races left. There's a great championship fight going on between Ken Roczen and Cooper Webb. The race Saturday night was great. Roczen leading by 10 seconds, goes down, gets back up, still in the lead, but he lost his confidence. Webb ends up passing him. He almost crashes with a few turns to go. Doesn't crash, keeps it upright, and wins by a second over Roczen. So Cooper Webb wins. Probably will win the championship, but who knows? 2 races left to go there. Alright, let's talk about Formula 1. I wrote a lot of notes here. Ignore. Alright, let's get to the start of a race. That's where we'll start. Verstappen, Hamilton. Verstappen kind of runs wide or whatever. He might have done it on purpose. Runs Hamilton off a track. Hamilton damages his front wing. He's like, oh, Verstappen ran me off a track. I love that part. And it's not just because I'm not exactly partial to Hamilton after watching him win so many times, but it's what Hamilton did to Rosberg all the frickin' time. It's great to finally see someone taking a championship fight to him, giving him a piece of his own medicine. After that, Mazepin wasn't his fault. Schumacher was his fault. Oh yeah, that old black flag thing for Perez. Yeah, you're not allowed to pass under the safety car. But if you watch a replay, right, after Perez makes his mistake, goes off, it looks like the two cars that passed him saw him come back on the track and actually slowed down to let him back by. Now, I get why the rule was enforced and all that. At least if I was Perez, I probably would have gotten over the radio and tried to say, and maybe he did, tried to say to the team, hey, this is cool with race control, right? Because the other thing, right, if you just have a minor off track, granted his wasn't exactly minor, but you have an off track under the safety car and lose positions, and you're not allowed to make those positions back, well then couldn't have Charles Leclerc just have gone by Verstappen when Verstappen had his little movement coming to the safety car restart after the red flag? What's to say Leclerc couldn't have said, oh, Verstappen, you had to spin, a slide, I'm going into the lead now. I get I'm comparing apples to oranges a little bit there. Perez's was a bit more of a major off, whereas Verstappen was able to collect it, but still, just something I made a note of and wanted to rant about. This is so professional, me reading this piece of paper. I kind of liked the first half of a race when they didn't have DRS. The main straight at Imola is so long, you didn't really need DRS to make a pass. Again, I'll throw my bias into here. Maybe I'm a bit bitter on the fact that all of those passes for Hamilton towards the end of a race looked a bit too easy. But I just think, right, I know this is a mute point now because over the last couple of seasons we've seen more Cinderella stories with the likes of Gasly and Perez winning and drivers getting on the podium who didn't normally. But when we were going through that period from 2014, I think, to 2019, where there were like 10 races where there was a car on the podium that wasn't a Red Bull, a Ferrari, or a Mercedes. I think DRS is a lot to blame to that, because anytime you did get a crazy race where McLaren was running in second or something like that, a DRS would just cause them to drop back. The absence of DRS in the first half of the Imola race, or any race where DRS isn't working for whatever reason, yes, we do see less passes, less racing, I suppose, but we get more opportunities for a Cinderella story. You know, oh, this guy did good in qualifying, or we got a good start or something, he's in third, and now it's not like a snap for everyone to pass him. I hope I've made my argument. At the end of the day, I understand DRS's purpose in Formula One. It's just, it was a little bit annoying. I mean, kudos to Hamilton for getting himself back in the race. But it's just when the passes are there. And okay, maybe they weren't exactly easy all the time. But you know, when you're second back of a car and you can just blast by them on the straight, you all saw the race. Okay, the crash. That's what you'll want me to talk about. Russell's fault, 60% to 40. And the reason why is because it's a responsibility of the driver making the pass to make a safe pass. Yes, Bottas came over at a high-speed portion of a racetrack, but he didn't run Russell off the racetrack. You know, there was still room for Russell to go there. Russell, if he got in the grass or hit a particular wet patch of track, that was on him for still committing to a daring move, really, in a high-speed, damp part of a circuit, and B, on the racetrack. It's wet. Sometimes when you're on a wet racetrack, you hit wet patches and you spin. So, to that extent, I think it was a bit of a racing incident with more of a blame on Russell. And it's just unfortunate that, you know, normally when you have racing incidents, it's two drivers fighting over a turn, and it happens at, you know, 80 miles an hour or whatever, and it's like, oh, one gets a puncture, one gets a broken front wing, and you know, that there's not much to be made out of it, whereas obviously this racing incident was a high-speed one and looked dramatic, and everyone's looking around for someone to blame, and it isn't really. Yeah, no, I wasn't really a fan of Russell going over and kind of not showing respect to Bottas. It seems like Bottas wasn't exactly showing any respect back, but I think Russell was a bit of the instigator there in that altercation, when you just had a nasty crash at a high-speed portion of a circuit and you're both going to be winded at least. Wasn't exactly a fan of Russell at that moment. A lot of notes here about me complaining against F1's safety car and red flag rules. And I'm going to stop short of saying that this is me being any kind of bias towards Hamilton here, because I remember a similar thing happened back in 2012. This was the first time I remember it happening at the 2012 Brazilian Grand Prix, where Michael Schumacher was a lap down in that race under safety car period, and he got a lap back. And I remember that was my first time realizing, oh, I didn't realize that was a rule Formula One had. And it was kind of interesting that, you know, under that red flag safety car period, they gave everyone a lap back, including only the two Haas drivers only got one lap back. And I'm guessing that's wrote in the rules somewhere. It just seems a little bit of a silly rule at times for me when, you know, as being a racing fan in America, I follow IndyCar and NASCAR, where it seems they have much more structured and you could argue even fair rules about how to deal with lap traffic during safety car periods. And I've just never been a fan of the way Formula One does that, especially because if it's not a red flag and it's a safety car period, you add like 2 extra laps of safety car waiting for the field to catch back up. So um, I'm still not. I get it's consistent. It's definitely been consistent over the past several years, and I get that it creates more exciting racing. It gives everyone a chance. Um, it just seems too generous to me, I suppose. Um, and I'm happy for Ferrari. Okay, is that enough time talking about F1? Yeah, let's go to MotoGP. Well done, Marc Marquez. He's been out for a year, comes back, finishes 7th. Kudos to him. Oh, I'll tell you who my favourite people were at the MotoGP race. The television direction. And I think I've mentioned this before. Um, so here's what every single racing series that's not MotoGP needs to do. They need to fire their TV directors and invest the money for the salary that they're given to that guy. Use it to clone the DNA from the person who does the MotoGP TV direction, make another one of him and put him in charge of all the different sports. Because that's just phenomenal what they'll do. They'll be showing like a battle on track, realize, oh, hey, there's another battle, show it in like a little, picture in picture. Oh, someone just crashed out from 7th. They'll show it for 5 seconds. Okay, you get the idea. This guy crashed. We're going to go back to the battle, wait for the battle to simmer down. Okay, let's go and show the replay of that guy crashing. And they do it all seamlessly. And it's unfortunate that we don't see that kind of brilliant TV direction in other motorsport series. And also, they have fully working gyro cams in MotoGP, which is something NASCAR tried to get right forever and never did. MotoGP just said, this is basic technology. We know what we're doing here. I don't know if maybe they're easier to set up on a motorcycle than a car. I wouldn't have thought so, but I don't know, to be honest. But yeah, MotoGP is always really pleasant to watch. Even if a race isn't good, which it normally is, it's just a nice viewing experience. IndyCar. I don't know if you watch these trains, but I noticed you said the same thing about this too, that the kind of coverage they were giving Jimmy Johnson kind of gave you shades of the kind of coverage that Danica Patrick got when she first went to NASCAR, running around at the back in the last place, but yet they take up 50% of the TV coverage. I mean, honestly, I was more excited for Romain Grosjean. I didn't realise he was still only 35, by the way. He's still young. He's got some time in IndyCar if he really wanted it, and why not? He comes in and gets the top 10. Oh, that's a note I wrote for later. It's 12:50 a.m. So that's my excuse. Oh yeah. Last note on IndyCar. I'm not a fan of IndyCar's blue flag rule when it comes to road courses. Okay, so again, this is the difference of two different mentalities from European to American racing, but I think it should be separated. European motorsports, you get a blue flag, you get out of the way. There's a race going on and you're not in it. American motorsports, because there's cautions and stuff, there's a big advantage to staying on the lead lap. So you see a blue flag, it's your choice whether you want to be a good guy or not. I think that road course racing for IndyCar, they need to have a look at that rule, because the aero wakers are thin. If you're following a car behind, it makes it hard to pass. There's no DRS, and there's, not that I'm saying IndyCar should have it, but the road courses are twisty, it's hard to pass in IndyCar is basically what I'm getting at. So sometimes you'll get to this tracks like they were at Barber, and I forget who it was it Connor Daly, was not letting the leader by Alex Palou, thank you for Samuel for reminding myself how to pronounce that name. He was not able to get by Daly. It wasn't really his fault. It's just, you know, the aero wake, the speed wasn't there to put a lap on him. And as a result, you had Will Power and Scott Dixon and Pat O'Ward breathing down his neck in the closing laps. And I just, as a fan, I don't like that. I don't really... I mean, you know, every now and then, yes, lap traffic does play a role in the battle for the win of a race. You know, we saw it in Formula One. It's the reason Hamilton went off. It's a you know, sometimes the leader gets through lap traffic a bit better than another driver. Sometimes the lapped car makes a mistake, or there's a bit of a disagreement and the lapped car ends up colliding with the leader. And that's just part of a risk of motorsports. But I just don't think it's right that a lap car can just continue to go around, especially on the track where it's hard to pass anyway, and intentionally make life a headache for the leaders when the fans are there to see the leaders battle. I understand that there's two sides to that argument, but I just feel if Palau had lost that race because a lap car wouldn't let him by, I wouldn't have been a fan of that. I don't have anything really against Will Power or Scott Dixon. I just, you know, I definitely would have been bummed for Palau if he'd lost it. But he didn't. So, kudos to him. NASCAR Cup, not a whole lot to say. Honestly, it was a bit of a typical Richmond race. Got interesting at the end, that's for sure. Talladega next week, so you'll get to watch some cars get tore up. Maybe they'll have another winner. That is the story, I think, coming out of NASCAR so far this year. Right? A win pretty much guarantees you a spot in the playoffs. NASCAR's going to have a crazy amount of crazy names in its playoff system this year because of all the different names that have won a race. There could be one driver in the Final Four maybe who's not a Logano or a Hamlin or a Keselowski or a Kyle Busch. You know, who's one of these new one-hit wonders making a name for themselves. I don't know who it's going to be. And that's why we watch, isn't it? There's lots of races coming up to watch. If you don't know what they are, go to samuelsracingcorner.com/schedules because I put all the series I follow up there. I know the next race. It's the Lionheart IndyCar Series race Wednesday night, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Race Spot, YouTube. I'm in it. Watkins Glen isn't normally a road course I do well at, but I've been practicing this time. Normally I don't do as much practice here as I should. I'll try and get a good qualifying, stay ahead of the treble. We'll see. Talladega next weekend though. I'm sure everyone's going to enjoy that. Great weekend of racing. It's not quite 1 a.m. yet, but yeah, I need to hit the sack. Have a great night, everyone.